I got two, so I can say twice as much with half the effort. So, okay. How many people here are familiar with these companies, FiveStars and Belly? Okay, I almost feel like I don't have to do this then, but I'm going to still ask you the reporterly question. We'll start with Victor, FiveStars. What do you make, and why do people like it?
All right, so Victor, CEO, co-founder of FiveStars, and we build programs for small businesses to help them keep their customers coming back. And basically, in practical terms, it's a rewards program that collects a lot of data, and then we leverage that data to build a marketing automation solution and a CRM and promotions platform.
I noticed you didn't use the word loyalty, and I'm going to come back to that. Logan, how do you sum up, company in a nutshell for Belly? What do you make, and why do people like it?
Sure. So Logan LaHive, founder CEO of Belly. We build loyalty technology for physical retailers. So we work with small businesses up to large enterprises, giving them the tools they need to have a full solution to run a loyalty program. Obviously, loyalty program is why probably Victor didn't say the word loyalty is not necessarily about running a loyalty program, but it's all about helping retailers collect customer data and use that customer data to drive their customers back in more often through marketing programs.
Victor, do you think loyalty has become something of a dirty word? Like, why does your description exclude that?
Yeah, well, so I feel like this is for us. This has been a positioning fight for for 5 years, which has been a fun one. But my background was working at McKinsey, building these types of customer engagement programs for many Fortune 50 brands. Many of the programs you see today, I had intimate experience in building them. And our goal was to democratize that technology and bring it to the SMB because we saw them getting left behind completely. Now, where the misunderstanding often happens is loyalty is just one small component of a much broader customer engagement solution suite. Loyalty is simply the way you get people to identify themselves, and once they're identified, then it's all about leveraging that data to do a lot of other things. So we try not to use the word loyalty because loyalty itself, I think, it's become construed that there's a bunch of companies that are loyalty as an industry, basically a punch card replacement, and that in itself doesn't really do much.
The digital punch card? Yeah. How, I'd like to know basically, isn't that still a valuable part of a kind of customer retention platform though?
I do think the digital punch card is a valuable part, but if you're building a company that can be replaced by sheets of paper printed at Kinko's, you're probably not doing anything that exciting.
Okay.
And I think the reality is in all these industries, there's trends. And Victor and I actually both started our companies just about 5 years ago, right around the same time. I think at that point in time there was a big trend for loyalty, and there were 30 companies probably in our space when we both started our respective companies, and that's thinned out a lot since. But there was definitely a downtrend in sort of the perception of being a loyalty business or in loyalty technology. I think right now, obviously you see trends. If you're not AI bots or building a drone, it's hard to get funded. But the thing is now is loyalty is kind of making a comeback. I think in the market, at least in the minds of physical retailers. I think that starts in a trend in big enterprise. Most large enterprise retailers are all talking about their mobile strategy. They're all talking about their digital strategy, whether they're hiring chief digital officers or how they're evolving it. But they see the success of Starbucks. Chick-fil-A, I think, is the #1 app in the App Store this week, and they're talking about their mobile strategy and realizing that it has to be built on a foundation, very likely, of a loyalty program, because their mobile strategy can't be built off of pure customer acquisition. Like, people don't download a retailer app in order to be acquired as a new customer. And so it's really a baseline for large enterprise retailers of what their digital strategy is moving forward. I think that's helping the conversation in the industry about the value of loyalty programs and what the best intent for a loyalty program is. And that will have downstream effects, I think, over time into SMB and to local retailers.
Yeah, there's like a sitcom to be made in this. You guys claim this is the first time you've ever met, but I kind of feel like you're brothers from another mother.
We've argued over email
just now.
We've argued over email a few times.
Very nice. I'd like to read those emails, please. Leak them my way at TechCrunch. So I guess you bring up a point, which is this is very mobile focused. Both of your companies are, delivering a lot through the phone. where is loyalty moving? Where is customer retention moving? Is this the kind of thing we're going to see? Some of those technologies you mentioned, like drones. I mean, drones, automotive tech, telematics. How are the new technologies going to affect hyperlocal customer retention initiatives?
Me first? Sure. Well, I think the honest answer is I think, my thinking on this has shifted a little bit. I think earlier in our company history, like we invested a lot in terms of kind of being innovative in terms of how people would engage with the program and what we built into our mobile strategy in order to, be cutting edge. And, we were, launch partner with Passbook, with Google Wallet. We were the only startup that was in, but like we put a lot into those things. And, ultimately now, to be honest with you, I don't believe loyalty is the industry that should be cutting edge in terms of a lot of these use cases or a lot of these new technologies, because ultimately loyalty programs are about broad scale engagement. A loyalty program is only effective if it's available to all customers and can have a large amount of engagement across the platform. And so, a lot of the early adopters or some of the innovative new technologies that people use, I think they'll roll out to local through payments or through kind of core beacon technology, not necessarily, through the loyalty program. And, I think the innovation that we're probably both focused on, but I know that we are, is much more on how to utilize the available customer data, how to gain as broad acceptance of the program as possible, and then how to utilize the customer data on innovation in marketing automation and different triggers, different channels of communication that can result in additional customer visits.
So does that mean AI for you?
You can call it AI. I mean, you can call it marketing automation, but ultimately, yes, it's about understanding retailers' data, understanding individual consumer data, understanding kind of a profile of who the customer is, what they buy, where they go, how often, how they shop on weekdays versus weekends, what weather impacts if they travel, and then being able to use that to be able to target specific offers or communications to an individual customer level. So, I think that's the evolution away from local into individual, and trying to really kind of narrow communication path down to individual customer behavior.
That's interesting. Victor, what are the hyper-local aspects of your business? Is it found in the tech, in the business model?
I think so the hyper-local nature of our business is, well, it's what we're trying to do. The premise of our business is that in the past, you walk into your local business and everybody knows who you are. They know what you like, what you don't like. It's much more like Cheers, right? And you don't, let alone knowing what your regular order is, they know about your sister, your parents. It's a very familial, relational space. And today, what's happened is you have the small business owner where they don't have that anymore because there's so many people walking in and out. Someone's bought a Groupon, tried them on Yelp. They can't even keep track of people. But the sad environment that brings you into is one where the small business is never going to compete with everyday low prices, with line speed, with whatever else the big enterprise has. The only thing they have to compete on is service and personalization. And so our goal is to help these business owners treat every single customer as a unique individual in the way they were in the past. And when we think about technology, I see two ways of the future. So what we know is that the situation today where you walk into your local coffee shop and you're anonymous, it's incredibly inefficient. You deploy a credit card every time. Every time you show up, it never gets better. You're a stranger. Not long from now, it's either going to be like Minority Report, where they scan your eyeball and then everything is personalized, or it's going to be like Cheers again. And our view is that the Cheers world is much better. It's the one that's going to play out. And so we want to use technology to enable those personalized, local, down to the individual type experiences.
Do you see any regional differences in what motivates customers to come back and keep coming back?
So what I think is very interesting about this is we segment our customers in very sophisticated ways. We're always digging in data. We have machine learning algorithms trying to parse through. And we actually don't see very many regional differences at all. There are some, but by far the largest differences can be found in you have one bowling alley. Within this bowling alley, they have a couple thousand customers, and those customers are vastly different. And the spread of that discrepancy is much, much larger than anything regional you could ever find.
I didn't realize bowling actually was a diversity-friendly sport.
You'd be surprised.
Actually, it's really interesting. So Are there any kind of like really off the wall or maybe counterintuitive programs that have just been like a huge success story for either of your clients? Maybe it's a smaller business or a larger franchise. What have been some of the most successful campaigns that have really increased customer retention?
Well, so off the wall, I think when we started, I think we were fairly well known for being slightly off the wall with some of the rewards that we offered, or the rewards that we would counsel small businesses to offer, and ultimately because that speaks to helping an individual small business be able to translate who they are and what matters to them to their customers, their personality, their culture, their business objectives. Because ultimately, loyalty to a small business is much more about understanding and like identifying with the culture and the personality of that business. So we had rewards where you can punch the owner of a comic book shop in the stomach or just high five them, and those are
who
rewards.
Wouldn't love to punch somebody?
Well, so look, punching the owner of a comic book store, like that makes a lot more sense than offering that reward in like a retail clothing boutique or something. But those are the types of rewards ultimately that a number of parts of customer segments really aspire to. They're not necessarily just straight discount driven. They're not just a percentage of transaction, which percentage of transaction is just not highly motivating within a small business. And so they're things that help you connect, that you'll talk about, that you'll share, that you'll tell your friends about. I think in terms of counterintuitive, we just ran a relatively large promotion with one of our major enterprise clients, and in this one in particular, it's they sell food but aren't necessarily known for food, and they were trying to launch salads. They were offering a salad, and one of the major things that we sent a large number of offers, highly targeted, and also had a number of different A/B tests in them. And interestingly, we sent offers to buy the salad, an offer for a free salad, just go in and you can redeem for a free salad, or go in and get a free salad with any purchase. And the open rates, click rates were all similar, but the redemption rates with a purchase were actually significantly higher than just offering the free good. So that was something that was counterintuitive, and actually the results are significantly better for the retailer on basket size. So.
How about you? What have been some of the most creative campaigns you've seen, or the most effective?
So I think many of the ones that Logan mentioned around Belly, I think they point to a deeper truth. My observations would be the same. It's usually those creative things and not necessarily just people getting something for free. And I think what it points down to, or at least how we've interpreted it, is that the power of the relationship is much more important than purely the discount or convenience or anything else. And I think that is fundamentally counterintuitive to where our culture is heading, because you have this idea that, okay, it's much more efficient to just put a robot at AMC, and we're going to walk into AMC and you have all these kiosks instead of people, and there's a lot of different local chains that are doing the same thing. But when you think about a small business, what they sell is a relationship, and if their good is just the coffee, then they're never going to make it. Imagine robots at all small businesses. You have no reason to go in. You go in because the relationship and that person is a part of the product offering. And so when you think about even rewards programs, what creative ideas like the one Logan mentioned are ones that build on that existing relationship where you know the owner, you like them, you think it's kind of funny if you get to punch the guy or smear him with a cupcake, and that goes so much further than you saving $2.
I would personally go have a meal made by a robot. There's like the robot peanut butter and jelly machine in Bernal Heights out here. But maybe that's sort of like even next wave for you is how to make these robots personable so that people keep coming back.
So on that, but the interesting thing about that is how do you scale that type of like personality, that type of interpersonal relationship between a business and a customer, especially in a small business? And that's why these marketing automation conversations are so important, because when you talk about hyperlocal, building a loyalty program for a single store operator is as hyperlocal as it gets. But ultimately, most single store operators or small businesses, they're not advanced marketers, or they don't like to spend a significant portion of their time on marketing. Getting them to log into your back end and create marketing campaigns and write subject lines, upload images is incredibly difficult. And so ultimately, the ability to scale that personality, like one, they have to make an investment up front to say, this is who we are, this is the type of program that we want to offer, but then have to have triggers to individual customers based on their activity, whether they're lapsed or whether they're new, different parts of the customer journey, in order to trigger those rewards or those communications to those individual customers. Because realistically, at a local level, small business owners are not going to spend the time to run those campaigns to get that highly targeted themselves.
Let me ask, is this stuff translatable to international markets? Does loyalty, does customer retention work the same way when you translate out of English and you're in different geographies?
Well, my answer is I don't really know, so maybe you'll have a better one. I think it looks different in every geography. For instance, when you look at a lot of Asian markets, they absolutely love rewards programs. Like everyone collects points everywhere, and it's very deeply cultural. And then there's other places you'll go where, for instance, certain parts of Southeast Asia or South America where they don't even have the infrastructure for our program to be able to work. They don't have a Wi-Fi connection in every store in the way you expect here. So I think that it varies very broadly, and for us, we currently focus, on the U.S. So we think it'll depend on the geography.
I think a small business owner is a small business owner, whether you open a coffee shop in San Francisco or whether it's in Rio. I think ultimately they have similar concerns, managing their inventory, managing employees, bringing customers in, how to acquire customers, how to keep them. So those dynamics are the same. There are dynamics in the loyalty industry across Asia and some other international markets where they have a higher propensity towards coalition programs or larger scale national programs. And I think those are some of the dynamics you see across those markets where there's higher consolidation and in South Korea, it's like in the telecom industry or others where they can offer the coalition programs through your mobile plan, or in Japan and in China, there's just I think more collaboration potential across some of the retailers that you don't see the dynamics working towards in the U.S. You just with all the competing interests in credit card companies and payments providers, large retailers, there's just so many conflicting interests that the coalition programs in the U.S. are very far out in the future.
What do you think needs to change to make the focus shift from customer acquisition to at least be in balance, if not stronger, on the retention side?
Oh man, I sighed deeply when she asked that question because I wish I had the answer. It's a definite case where if you talk to the typical small business owner, they still very much do not understand. When I left McKinsey building these programs for large companies to bring it to the SMB, that was the point in time when they were literally running Groupons and putting themselves out of business because they would offer deep discounts, not have any idea about what the financial metrics would look like, not track anything, and then people would never come back. If you talk to a small business owner today, there has been a shift, and they will talk about engagement and bringing customers back a lot more than they ever have before. But still, when you talk to many small business owners, even for our existing FiveStars merchants, oftentimes, they'll say, "Hey, we want to cancel because you aren't acquiring enough customers for us." And you'll sort of say, "Well, that's actually not what it's about." And fundamentally, the difficulty there is that a new customer walking through the door is a very easy unit of measure to recognize if you're unsophisticated, but it's much more statistical and analytical to understand exactly what's happening with existing customers and their frequency of purchase, their purchase size. There's a lot more intricacy there. So for us, it's about trying to train and educate these small business owners to understand it's vastly more economical to bring an existing customer back one more time than it is to acquire a new one, which every Fortune 500 we worked with at McKinsey deeply understands, but the small business does not yet.
How dramatic is that? Like, how much more are your loyal customers spending, or do you have some?
Yeah. Well, just high level. Around 10 years ago, McKinsey and HBR together published a study saying that it's around 6 to 7 times more cost effective to acquire, to make an existing customer come back than to acquire a new one, and that's generally true across the board. It's literally a 6x higher ROI, and a lot of that results to, for instance, when we look at our customer base, a loyal customer, you go to a coffee shop 5 times a week, once a day, you're spending literally thousands of dollars at this one store, whereas a casual customer going once a week, for that typical coffee meeting is spending order of magnitudes less, right? So these are massive differentials.
I mean, physical retail is still standard 80-20 rule. I mean, 80% of revenue typically comes from 20% of customers, and so that customer retention on those heavy users is by far the biggest driver of their business. But there's still this huge education gap. No matter what you say in terms of the cost to acquire versus the cost to retain, how valuable a loyal customer is, and lifetime value. No matter what, small business owners still front of mind in every one of their conversations. They'll tell you they want loyalty, but they will always say, in terms of like mind share and budget, they want to spend on customer acquisition. So it's a big hurdle in the small business space. Now, it's made a big shift in enterprise and in larger retailers, and I think that's important. Most of the announcements that you see coming out of large enterprise retailers is about their mobile strategy and loyalty programs, and I think ultimately, again, that has a downstream effect and will be able to create the momentum and trend to understand how important it is to gather that customer data and how effective large enterprise retailers are using that to a local level, and that will translate to SMBs, but it will be sort of a long tail.
Can you guys share, I mean, I know some of this has been reported in Street Fight and TechCrunch and elsewhere, but can you share some clients' names, customers' names? Like, what are the stores where we could go test this out, especially in San Francisco?
Yeah, well, so both of us have small business clients. So in terms of small business clients, I mean, you can download our app, the Belly app, and you can look in the map and see, thousands. We have over 10,000 locations across the U.S. where you can use Belly. In our small business locations, it's an iPad customer facing at point of sale. Belly is now and has made a significant investment and push into large enterprise. And with large enterprise, obviously, there's some more limitations as to kind of what you can say and the timing of where you say it.
Are you white labeling for those clients? Or?
So we have a loyalty platform technology. So ultimately, all of our enterprise retailers use the same underlying platform. They use in loyalty, it's all about building customer profiles, how you earn, how you burn, and then how you create business rules and logic around triggering different campaigns. All of that is the same underlying technology, but we do allow large enterprise retailers to have their own branding and customization.
Okay, so it's white labeled, but the features are universal.
It's a platform, right? So very much like Salesforce would be within a large organization. It's all the same technology, but obviously highly customized to an individual retailer's use case.
Okay, well, where can we go check this out? I mean,
similar answer for us. Best way is to download the FiveStars mobile app that's in the App Store. We have over 1,000 locations just here around in San Francisco and in the Bay, so they're all over, and probably almost 2 million people signed up. So hopefully many of you already are FiveStars customers, but probably 20% of the Bay Area is a FiveStars member.
Okay, it's a little bit of a non-answer, but if you're hamstrung because you don't have permission to mention client names.
Well, I can answer many names. It's just there's 1,000 small businesses.
Or you don't want to pick favorite children. I understand.
Yeah.
That said, can you tell us about which industries have led and lagged, as far as adopting your technologies? Like which segments within these storefront businesses, like the vape shops and the medical marijuana dispensaries, are they using this stuff? Are there
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, like, what are the range of businesses and who's leading and who's lagging?
For us, it's a pretty broad distribution. Around 40% of our businesses are food or food related, coffee, sit down restaurants, etc. And then you have another third that's retail, and then you have another third that's a mix of service providers like salons, spas, things like that. I do think industries like vape have been on the cutting edge simply because that industry is new and basically came from nowhere in the last 3 to 4 years. The new business opens are some of the biggest adopters for us. And then marijuana would certainly be two. For us, there are certain verticals we've stayed away from for various reasons. And then things like coffee shops, let's say, where you have a high density of traffic, those are large adopters, just because the more frequent your customers already come, the more opportunity there is to drive a lift.
And for us, again, we work exclusively with physical retailers. So any type of business that has a physical storefront In the enterprise space, we're doing a lot in the QSR, and so just with the frequency, the basket size, the repetitive customer behavior, and ultimately the investments that they're making in digital, that's been a big channel for us. In small business, very similar. We have about 50% of our locations, about 50% are some level of food service, whether that's tea and coffee or quick service sit down restaurant, and then the other 50% is just a very broad mix. We don't limit or restrict who can offer the loyalty program to any type of business. So I mean, we have bars, restaurants. So the limitations come in kind of the restrictions or legality of offering rewards, but that is mainly managed by the individual retailers.
So the platform is neutral, but there are laws in place to prevent people from using this to, let's say, like encourage addiction or something like that.
To encourage addiction. So again, so I think this is it's fine.
Like
I mean, look, as a standard business practice, like we don't make, we as Belly don't make a moral judgment on what business can or cannot have a loyalty program. So any business, and ultimately, the loyalty program is not about customer acquisition. It's about bringing your current customers back more often. And so as long as they kind of fall within the legal issues of their state or of offering rewards, we don't get into making moral judgments on who can have a loyalty program and who can't.
That's a tough challenge. I really thank you for spending the time here, and thank you so much to Lora, Rich, and Street Fight. We have time for a couple more. Okay, do you want to? Should we open it, or is there a mic circulating?
You addressed earlier the issue with the most successful campaigns are often very personalized, but I didn't really understand how that scales. So I understand the tool set is very scalable, but I don't understand how the campaign creation is solved for SME.
Yeah, I think, so I don't know if you're asking me directly or both of us, but ultimately earlier in our company history, we built out a large set of tools for merchants to have full email marketing capabilities, built out really sophisticated tools for them to be able to log in, write subject lines, give them best practices, upload images, include rewards, track those emails and communications through to opens, clicks, but also to return visits, all of those things. But ultimately, even on the high end, where I think we were doing very well, it was about 35% to 40% of our business owners were logging into that back end on a monthly basis, just looking at their data and creating campaigns. So that's even high, but then there's huge drop off, in the campaign creation stages. So people couldn't think of a subject line or couldn't upload an appropriate image. And so ultimately that helped evolve us towards moving much more towards marketing automation. And so to answer your question, I think ultimately instead of building campaign tools where merchants go and create their own campaigns, we go through a more extensive onboarding process to say what rewards are you willing to give away in certain instances. So a lapsed customer or to acquire a new, to drive back a second visit within 48 hours of acquiring someone. So we go through a significant onboarding process, and we set up what rewards they're willing to offer at different inflection points of a customer journey. We get pre-approvals to do those. We submit all the campaign types, so the images, the copy, and then we can trigger those campaigns just based on the customer journey. So if a customer becomes lapsed, or if we notice in the data that they have frequent activity in the neighborhood but haven't been back to your business, we can trigger those automatically, and it's just pre-approved but goes to an individual customer on an individual customer journey rather than a market campaign or a larger email blast.
Victor, did you want to chime in on how to deliver that kind of customization en masse?
Yeah, I think I agree with what Logan said. I think the core premise that I would go to is that that's the wrong focus, and that the rewards program itself is not that interesting. And sort of from day one, our pet peeve has been being categorized as loyalty, because loyalty itself is just valuable for the identity. So if you think about rewards campaigns, that's actually not what drives the value. That's simply what incentivizes a customer to sign up. What's really driving the value for merchants is the marketing automation that happens after, the CRM, the promotions that come after, and any personalization you can drive in the store, where that cashier looking you in the eye can give you better service because they know they've learned things about you over time that they've then logged in our program. And so that is where I would say the focus and the value is, and not necessarily on the campaign itself, although there are interesting things from the campaign.
we have time for one more audience question. I think I saw some hands before. So.
You're getting a no, you don't.
I have a quick.
Oh.
I have one
No.
question.
Are we over on time? I'm
Oh.
so sorry. Perhaps we could catch up with you and. Sorry about that.
Awkward close.